Welcome to the Careers Unfiltered podcast with Mentoria. You may know your dream job, you may know your dream career, but do you know what goes on behind the scenes in your chosen career path? Have you been able to separate the glamour from the reality in your career? Do you know the good, the bad, and the ugly in your career? Most people walk into their careers without having any idea in terms of what really happens in that career, how to crack success, how to get the right job, how to grow in the career. Don't be those people. Get the ins and outs of your career path through some of the best subject matter experts and industry professionals that Mentoria will bring to you on the Careers Unfiltered podcast.
You'll be working with a lot of brainy scientists and you have to keep up with them. So you have to be very much at the top of your game when it comes to technology, understanding different frameworks and understanding the level of those intelligent people. So if you're talking about the technical side, there will be a lot of coding. There'll be a lot of data extraction. You'll be working a lot with large amounts of data and basically writing code to sort, to retrieve data from a big set of data. That is what is data science and data analytics. You'll also be working. So you'll be using something called NLP, natural language processing. So this is where Python comes into the picture. So most people use Python as the coding language, but you have different platforms or tools that use Python, like Google Colab is there. Then you have a Jupyter Notebook. So you have such platforms to use Python and work with large sets of data. Like you'll be taking in a file, extracting data. So say there's a problem statement like I have to find out all the Roman numerals in a text, and the text will have 1 lakh words. So I'll have to write an algorithm to extract all the sentences from that text that have Roman numerals in it. That's just an example. So these are the kind of tasks you will be working on if you're working with computational linguistics. And you'll also be listening to audio generated. So text to speech is a very, very important part of computational linguistics, text to speech, and also processing, speech processing, like Siri and Google voice commands. So they take in your voice and then they process the command and then they give you the output of what you've asked. So all of this, you will be dealing with things like prosody, checking how good the quality of voice is. So these things, typical day of a computational linguist is like that, working with a lot of data through coding.
Right.
And if you're talking about the humanities side, then it is more of research and field work. So there are more opportunities with academia on the humanities side. So you will be doing, for example, if I want to study, language acquisition in children. So how a child say learns language. So then I create a lot of surveys. I go and interview children who say I want to interview bilingual children. So then I go and interview bilingual children. Maybe one parent is speaking one language, the other parent is speaking another language. I have survey questions. I get that answered. So how do I frame these questions to get the data that I want? The humanities side of it is more on research and field work. You also do a lot of documentation in both. Documentation is like a key task for computational as well as non-computational. You can also work as a consultant. So if I'm a very good computational linguist, companies like Google or Amazon, they can hire me as a freelancer and I can work for them. That's also possible, and then I work on the algorithms that they want me to work on. And if you're in the humanities side, you can also get into teaching. So once you get a PhD, you can become a professor and teach linguistics. The healthcare industry also has a lot of importance if you're like working with neurolinguistics. So you understand the brain, how brain processes language, and then you also decipher speech disorders. So you can become a speech pathologist, you can become a speech therapist. So these are the typical career profiles that you will see when you do linguistics. Yeah. Back then it was different because the market was still quite rigid and raw and not very tapped, so people could transition from any field to any field. But
Right.
right now, in these days and times, it's very important to specialize in what you really like, because then transitioning becomes very difficult. You have to start all the way again from scratch, because everybody goes only by experience. So
Yes.
my recommendation would be to start as early as possible. The earlier you decipher your aptitude and your liking, the better it is. In fact, right from grade 10, that's what I would suggest. So if you're talking about formal education, it's very important to understand that linguistics is an interdisciplinary field. So when I say that, what I mean is it can be clubbed with any field. It can be clubbed with psychology to become psycholinguistics. It can be clubbed with sociology to become sociolinguistics. It can be clubbed with neurology to become neurolinguistics. It can also be clubbed with computer science to become computational linguistics. But on the whole, if you divide it, linguistics can be seen as a STEM subject as well as an arts subject. So if you're looking at it as a STEM subject, that is a science and technology and engineering subject, then it's computational linguistics. For that, the formal education has to be a bit different. And if you're looking at it as the humanities or the arts perspective, then the formal education for that is very different. So if you take the computational side of it, then you have to focus on mathematics, because algebra becomes very important when it comes to computational algorithms, to understand how algebra works, because everything is based on algebraic equations. So a very good combination of mathematics, computer science, and say one or two, um, coding languages like C, C++ will help. And of course, you need a very strong foundation in computer science in your bachelor's, and your master's can be in computational linguistics itself. But right from 10th to through 12th, your focus has to be science if you're taking computational linguistics, because that will help you learn Python and natural language processing and things like that. So it's more on the tech side. Now, if you're looking at it from the humanities perspective, then it's a different role altogether. So then you specialize in things like English language, literature, grammar, history, psychology, sociology, anthropology. These are the subjects that you will focus on. So in my 10th, I would focus more on art subjects and participate in a lot of extracurricular activities like debates, English club, refining my English skills, my communication skills. So it's more on the artistic and more on the human side. And then my bachelor's can be in either English language, literature, or linguistics, with a focus on linguistics. And then my master's can be in any specialization that I decide. So suppose I'm more keen on the humanities side, I want to get into, say, sociolinguistics or psycholinguistics, and that can be my specialization in my master's. And then you can go on to do your PhD also after that in that particular specialization. So it's important to understand this demarcation of linguistics as computational or STEM or tech, and non-tech or humanities. So it can be both the ways. So if you're talking about India, Delhi is the place, because it's the capital of all the languages, exploring all the languages in the country. You have about 144 languages that are being taught in Delhi in different ministries in different parts of the city. And you have JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, you have Delhi University, you also have CIIL Mysore. They are also very good in terms of researching for languages. So these institutions in India are of very high repute. Of course, you have Aligarh University, you have Annamalai University, you have others, but they are not as much high in ranking as the ones in Delhi. The IITs only have PhDs. They don't have bachelor's and master's options. So if you're talking about bachelor's and masters, you mainly have to look at Delhi. If you're talking about abroad, so here we need to understand linguistics is the science of language. So if you're looking at that as a field, UK is the best place because most of the degrees of linguistics originated in this country, because they are the inventors of English and they have had a very systematic way of studying their own language scientifically. And also they're very close to most European countries, so they're very very multilingual and interdisciplinary. So most universities in UK, like any specialization you're looking for, it is touted as the best country to go to. So you have Oxford, Cambridge is of course there, but even a normal state level university which is not, say, private and it's public funded is also good in UK. So the level of linguistics there is really good. Like you can specialize in anything, forensic linguistics, you can specialize in psycholinguistics or any of that, those fields. Apart from that, US and Canada and Australia, all the English speaking countries, these, like in North America, I would say Canada and US. US is of course better. I would rate Canada after that. But when you go to Canada and US, you have to go for universities, not colleges. So if you see the word college, like they wouldn't have very great courses. It has to have the word university in it. That's very important. There's a difference between college and university, although both offer master's programs. So that's very important. Australia also has quite a few, like University of Sydney has it. Canberra, like any university would have it. The ranking is not so crucial there. If you're talking about West Europe, yeah, you have Netherlands. You can explore options in Netherlands and Sweden, the Scandinavian countries like Norway, Sweden, Denmark. But I would still say that UK is the best because they have a lot of experience in this field. So I wouldn't say it is a mandatory requirement, like a mandatory requirement, but it's definitely beneficial. So what I mean by that is, if I don't speak many languages, it's not that I can't work in as a linguist. I can, because there will be technical qualifications that I have. So, for example, there are computational linguists who only speak English, but they know the commands, or they have enough experience working with foreign languages without even knowing it. So, I'm sure you must have seen this movie, The Imitation Game. It was about the life of Alan Turing. He's called the father of artificial intelligence, and he
Turing. Yes.
made the first system, the Turing machine. He made that from scratch to decipher the German army's conversations without knowing a word in German. So that's the entire thing that the movie propagated, that you don't need formal language knowledge to understand, but then your technical acumen must be really good, like you have to be a genius. So I wouldn't say that it is a requirement, but it's a nice to have. If you're talking about the non-tech side, there'll be a lot of reading. There'll be a lot of research to do. So you'll have to read a lot and research and then document all your findings. You would also have to listen to a lot of audio, yeah, and a lot of surveying you'll have to do. Create a lot of survey questions. You'll have to work with a lot of tools like Pratt, Elan. They're all like sound software tools, prosody tools, they're speech tools. So you don't have to code, but you should know your way around these tools, like how to process files and things like that. If you're working as a computational linguist, you will be coding quite a bit. You'll be working with a lot of data. So basically extracting information from files and then documenting it, exporting it into an Excel or, different files in different formats. You will be reading a lot of phonemic transcription. So there is something called the IPA, which is the International Phonetic Alphabet. So if you have a word apple, it's represented with certain symbols.
Right.
So this is called the phonetics. Phonetics is a study of the phones that form, a word. So you'll be reading a lot of phonemic transcriptions also, and you'll be playing around a lot with these funny looking symbols, typically, because your job will be to find a particular phone and understand why, suppose a speech output is not coming out clearly. You'll have to computationally figure out why that phone is not being pronounced correctly. So then you'll have to get to the code level, decipher it, and then generate the output. So this is what a typical day would look like, if I've been clear. Currently, the biggest challenge I'm facing is rendering Indian languages. Indian languages are very, very complex to render, when it comes to text to speech. It's really, really hard because it's very distinct. Like if you take languages like Kannada, Tamil, they shouldn't sound robotic, and they have to sound very natural. So I think working with Indian languages is very challenging when it comes to computational linguistics.